The cost of the status quo model, let's take a look at how employees move through an organization through 4 quadrants. The first quadrant is quadrant 1. This is where employees enter the organization. They're not yet competent, but they're highly motivated. They don't know the job yet specifically, but they are excited about learning it. Generally, it takes between 90 to 180 days for an employee to become competent. Once they become competent, they move into quadrant number 2. There, they're competent and motivated. And this quadrant is where most of the work gets done in an organization. This is where things are productive. This is where the job is done well and the cost and effectiveness are high. But over a period of time, what happens, some employees move from quadrant 2 into quadrant 3. When they move into quadrant 3, they're still somewhat competent, but they've become demotivated. And there's a variety of reasons that they become demotivated, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes. But the employees in quadrant 3 then, over some longer period of time, happens to them as they can move into quadrant number 4. When they move into quadrant number 4, now they're not only not competent, but they're also demotivated. These employees in this one we would call baggage. They're minimum daily requirement people. They show up for their job, to get a paycheck, but they're not doing the job. They're not productive hardly at all. What happens to people in quadrant 4 generally are 2 things. Number 1, either they leave the organization, which leaves a hole in our organization that we have to replace, or number 2, they are fired. And when we fire them, that's another cost because now we have to pay unemployment compensation. So as we look at this model, what we discover is how do we get people from quadrant 3 back into quadrant 2, and what are the costs? And talking to managers, I ask them, well, how many people would you say in your organization are in quadrant 3? Most of them will say somewhere around 50% of their people are in quadrant 3. They're somewhat competent, but they're not motivated. Well then, what percent effective are they? If they're somewhat competent, what percent efficiency are they applying? Well, most of them would say somewhere around 50% effective. Then my next question is, well, what are we paying the employees generally that are in this quadrant? In most cases, what we discover is they're paying somewhere between $30,000 to $40,000 a year. And again, that'll vary from organization to organization, but let's use those numbers. So let's say in an organization that has 100 people, and they have 50% that are in quadrant 3, which means around 50 people, and they're 50% effective, making somewhere between $30,000 to $40,000 a year. When we put those numbers together, what we find is that comes to a cost of between $750,000 to $1 million that we're losing in wages for work that we're paying for, but we're not getting the results. That's a lot of money. The other side of that coin is it doesn't show up anywhere. It doesn't show up on our bottom line. It doesn't show up on our P&L statement. There's no line item for that cost. So in many organizations, they don't even realize they're losing that much money. So what are the solutions? The solutions to this is to move people from quadrant 3 back into quadrant 2 so they never get over here to quadrant 4. Well, how do we do that? And what are the solutions to this type of a problem? One of the things that causes the demotivation in this group is mismanagement. If mismanagement is a problem, then the solution to mismanagement then is for us to develop an effective supervisory management leadership training program so that we can bring those managers up to par where they can manage those people properly. The second reason is that they are underutilized. What we find is that employees in this are underutilized so that they do not get the job done. So how do we utilize them effectively? Well, we can develop a recognition and rewards program that helps do that. The third reason is that we've got the wrong person in the wrong job. This calls for a better training and recruiting and selection process using job matching and job benchmarking as we bring people into the organization to put the people in the right place at the right time. Today, I want to thank you for going through the courses with us. We want you to download and provide a download for you so that you can download this particular model and have discussions with your team. And you can figure out exactly what your cost is in the organization of people that are in quadrant 3 and what it'll take to move them back into quadrant 2. I want to thank you again and look forward to working with you in the future.